This is WWE superstar Drew McIntyre, and you're listening to the WWE Podcast.
The champ is
the one that everybody wants, me.
Becky Lynch is going to WrestleMania. Claymore!
Austin 316 says I just whipped your ass.
This is my idol. You're going to acknowledge me.
Hey everybody, welcome to the WWE Podcast. Welcome to the Mailbag. Welcome to the show that gives you a voice. Welcome to my favorite show of the week. And it's time to interact with you and hear what you've been thinking about all week. And we've got certainly a lot of emails and calls to get through, and it's going to be a lot of fun tonight. So why not just jump right in? Let's jump right in. And as is customary on the show, if you have not joined us here before, well, prepare to get used to Randy starting off the show. Randy, the patron, who is a big supporter over there on patreon.com, enjoying all of his ad-free content. You can do the same. But you also get priority placement in the show, just like Randy. So let's start off with Randy. Let's see what he has to say this week. All right. He says, hey, Matt, Randy, the patron here. Okay, first off, your cage analogy, where I understand where you're coming from, but if you take away them climbing and the door being open, then you have a boring match, bud. I think it's entertainment. I don't want a no disqualification match. Then you don't need the cage in my eyes. In my opinion, if I go to a show and see a cage, I'm excited that someone is going to get into it. I'm not mad like, okay, well, I guess there goes the surprise. Okay, Randy. So those that are not sure what he's referring to, I have been and have over the years ranted about the fact that cage matches should not allow you to walk out the cage or go over the cage as a method of victory. My argument simply was that the cage is designed to keep people in and keep others out. And why should a method of victory be the very thing that the cage is designed to do? Right? Or the method of victory is the complete opposite of what the cage is designed to do. Therefore, you are completely throwing away the credibility of what the cage does. And as I've said many times, it is preposterous that if somebody wanted to win, all they had to do was walk out the door, that they couldn't just sprint over to the other side of the ring, walk out, and they win. And they suddenly are in quicksand or in thick mud that they can't move their feet. It's just, to me, it's preposterous. Now, I can't stand it. Randy, I'm glad you enjoy it. Somebody does. Look, you're not going to change my mind. I'm not going to change yours. I would disagree that it's not going to create a boring match. Quite the contrary. I think if there's more ways to win a match, sometimes that's worse, because then you're opening yourself up to why even have stipulations, right? If there are so many ways to win a match, I think that it doesn't, I don't think it really helps create that sports feel, right? I just, in my mind, this is how I think about it. And I don't enjoy the fact that you can escape a cage to win. It doesn't make sense to me at all that is how you can win a match. To me, it doesn't make it boring. It does what the cage is intended to do, which is, as we always say, and whenever they have a steel cage match, especially when a GM or an official comes out and they say that, okay, this is how we're gonna end it. This is how it's gonna go down. Bobby Lashley, you're gonna go one-on-one with Big E inside a steel cage. That'll keep everybody out. You know that they're not going to be kept out. If anybody's been watching wrestling for more than a month, you know it's not going to be a great, efficient, effective method to keep anybody out of the cage. And I know what you're saying, that, that's going to happen, so it creates excitement. I guess you're looking at it through the lens of more possibilities. Just that creates more excitement for you. I'm looking at it of the more realistic lens. Like I want realism in my wrestling, and it's just, to me, preposterous. But hey, cool, Randy, if you like it, wonderful, and more power to you. But let's continue on. Now, with that said, really, Drew and Big E, interesting. So assuming they don't trade Drew, aren't him and Big E baby faces? So does this make Drew a heel? No, I don't think this makes Drew a heel. However, I did allude to on my show last night about the Raw review that we are looking at a potential of Drew McIntyre turning heel, because I think there's a real possibility there. Drew has certainly run a great babyface role for the last 2 years, since really where it exploded at the Rumble in 2020. And now we're almost in 2022, the Royal Rumble season, and it certainly is a possibility where people are just tired of Drew in the title picture, regardless of who the champion is. And I could see fans turning on him a little bit, and then he turns on the fans. But if they're trying to get him ready for Roman Reigns, you can't do it. It all depends on where they envision Drew McIntyre being in the next 3 to 6 months. If they envision him and Roman Reigns tearing it up, no, they can't make him a heel. They can't. But yeah, okay. I have a feeling that AJ is getting traded, which I'm all for. Then Omos can be on his own, and he will be okay. What do you think? Yeah, I also talked about this, and I think it is time for Omos to be on his own. I think he's fine on his own. I don't think he needs AJ anymore. He doesn't feel like he's kind of the coattails of AJ, or he's a guy that can't hold his own. He feels like he has matured enough to be on his own. I do believe that. Now, he does have improving in the ring. He has improvement on the mic to get to, and I'm sure he will. But I think for him on his own, yeah, like, let's do it. I think the draft is a perfect opportunity. Plus, it's not just about Omos. It's also about AJ finally getting another big run, and probably the last big one of his career, arguably. Okay, now Charlotte and Doudrop. Man, you think too much. I was not thinking half of what you were. I was like, awesome, they're building their stars, and was actually excited for that match. But the whole point of an open challenge is to go out there and surprise them. But either way, Charlotte never fought her, so it's still a surprise to her in my eyes. Anyway, that's it for now. Later, guys. Yeah, look, I think overthinking is... It depends on how you look at the product and what lens you look at it through. You clearly look at it through a different way, which is why you're disagreeing with me on the cage and other things, which is great. Like, I don't want everyone to think like I think. What a scary ass world that would be. Let me just tell you that right now. But I don't think I was overthinking this, because, I mean, it's an open challenge. So if it's an open challenge, why is the rule the first person to go to Adam Pearce and to Adam Pearce and Sonya Deville? Is that the rule? I thought it was just basically whoever gets the gorilla position first and whoever's entrance music is played first. But why weren't there other women there? I mean, you have an open opportunity for the Raw Women's Championship, presumably the reason that you're there, and you have no one other than Doudrop out there fighting and arguing to make it happen. You know, I have no problem with Doudrop. I think she's got a bright future. I praised her last night on my Monday Night Raw review, but to me, there was so many like holes in the logic of an open challenge. An open challenge is just that, you know. I just don't think that having Doudrop go to Adam Pearce and Sonya Deville first is a great way to really live up to what an open challenge is, in my mind. Now, again, you're arguing that it creates new stars. I'm with you. I think that's a big benefit, and I'm all for it. Everybody is all for building new stars. I don't think there's anybody that's a wrestling fan that would be saying, no, let's keep everything as is. Let's not build anybody up. That's preposterous, right? So I think you're right. Building new stars, getting the spotlight for Doudrop, good all the way around there. And I think she's got a bright future. She's young. She's athletic for her size, more so than I think Nia Jax and or Tamina are, which is a good thing. And a variety of body types. I went over that on my Monday Night Raw review. Really good there too. I think that she's got an accent that is fine. You know, when I first heard her speak, she doesn't look like she would have an accent, right? And I'm thinking to myself, you know, is she playing an accent? But obviously it's not. I mean, it's her real speaking voice, and that's cool. I just when she speaks, I'm like, oh, that's right, she has an accent. For whatever reason, I look at her, I'm like, no way she does. And she does. But Doudrop is fine with me. I just didn't like that. And then how is Charlotte surprised? I mean, how are you not watching the show that you're on? You know, I would think that if you have an open challenge, you'd be paying close attention to seeing who may or may not be interested. But yeah, there you go. I overthink things, but that's my job. That's my job. Thanks, Randy. We will catch you next time. And let's see here. I want to change things up. Kyle Smithers writes in, another patron of the show. Thank you for the support. He says, hope you, Matt. Hey, Matt, hope you and the family are well. Thank you. Have 3 questions in the form of a hypothetical scenario for you. Let's say Vince McMahon makes you the CEO of WWE today. Oh, Lord. All right, hold on. Let me get in that frame of mind. All right, I'm there. In your view, what is wrong with WWE as it is today? Okay. Kyle. I'm not laughing at your question as if it's stupid. It's a great question. It's just, I don't want to go on a 2-hour rant. I'll have to give you the bullet point kind of Cliff Notes version, because I know that if I really went into depth about everything that was wrong on every little level, it would be a podcast that would be 4 hours and I would be asleep before that ended. Let me just tell you that right now. So, okay, bullet points. I'll give you the bullet points version. Micromanagement of every little facet of what they do. Promos to what's done inside the ring, to what's done outside the ring with stars, what they say and do in their public relations, meaning like Stephanie McMahon micromanaging every little thing that is done on the brand. Everything's about the brand. I mean, that's another issue. The micromanagement culture, the environment really is what I think is driving a lot of stars away from the company when they're counting down the days like Kevin Owens is until their contract expires so they can get the hell out and go to the land of the free, presumably, i.e. AEW. You have a problem when every star that has come out of there, many stars that have come out of there have gone on other podcasts, other platforms, and confirmed this time after time after time of what a toxic environment it is at times. Is, to me, the culture and behind the scenes and the micromanagement is a massive issue. Massive. I don't think that they value their stars as much as they say they do, and rather it's about the brand, right? So that comes to my second point. It's about the brand. Everything Stephanie McMahon does is about the brand. The brand is above any star. The brand is bigger than anybody. No one will ever be bigger than the brand. That's a problem. Why is that a problem? Why would you not want one of your stars to potentially be bigger than the brand? Why? Ego? Because I can't think of one reason, monetary or otherwise, you would not want somebody to be bigger than that brand. Think about this. You may be saying, well, that means they have more control. That means that they have, we don't have our thumb on them, right? We won't be able to tell them what to do. Well, then therein lies your problem. If your problem is all about control, perhaps you need to look in the mirror about what your priorities are. Because if you have a star that is bigger than the organization, which I don't know if they'll ever have again. I think John Cena was the last one to really do it at this point. Maybe Roman Reigns will get there someday. But right now, if you are concerned about building a star that is bigger than the brand, that is not a problem. That's an asset, because if you have that star get bigger than the brand, okay, fine. Maybe they move on to other projects, movies, TV shows, other forms of entertainment, another wrestling promotion, perhaps. That star that is bigger than life, larger than life, bigger than the company, will always be tied to that company. The fans will always still want to see that individual. They will be inducted into the Hall of Fame. That individual will forever have their foundation, their beginnings in WWE. Why would you not want that exposure? And the answer is control. Period. That's it. There's 2 points about what's wrong with WWE. The brand, and God almighty Stephanie McMahon, if you watch Stephanie McMahon's Twitter feed or her Instagram, you would barely know she works for a wrestling company. And she would say, you're right, because we're not just a wrestling company. Yes, you are. At your core, you are a wrestling company, Steph. And they will run from that identity until the end of time and deny that they are a wrestling company until death itself. They will, because they feel that there's some kind of stigma and negative cloud hanging over wrestling. Oh, it's wrestling. Because they know what the general public feels and thinks about what professional wrestling is. Which is why Vince famously said to Stone Cold Steve Austin on Steve Austin's podcast 5, 6, 7 years ago that, well, we don't do wrestling. That was what my dad did. We're sports entertainment. There's no such thing as sports entertainment, by the way. That's not a thing. We just all take that phrase and we go, oh, okay, that kind of makes sense. This is a sporting simulation and I'm entertained. So sure, let's put the two words together. I guess that makes sense. The phrase doesn't make sense. Why? He's Vince McMahon saying it's sports entertainment, right? Well, what do you mean sports entertainment? Or sports are entertaining. This is wrestling. That's how you are entertaining. Not through sports. You need to pick a sport. You can't just say you're all sports, right? This is world wrestling entertainment. Hence WWE. It just feels as if Vince had these two words and they fit nicely together, and then he coined the phrase, it's sports entertainment. Nope, you're wrestling. And you will forever be wrestling. And they will deny that to the death. But you are, Steph. The amount of collaborations she does, and I understand, like Susan G. Komen, she does, which, I mean, I'm not going to get into some of the shady stuff with some of the non-for-profits. I'm all for supporting Connor's cure. Like, of course, childhood cancer. If you think that I think that wrestling is more important than childhood cancer, I mean, like, come on. I don't. Of course not. But on the other side of the coin, if Stephanie McMahon believes that these relationships are more important than her core business of putting on a damn good show and running from her identity of what they really are, it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. I mean, there's just a few things there, Kyle. I mean, I could go on, right? I could go on talking about the production just on a week-to-week basis. Everything feels the same. People wrestle the same way. The matches are laid out the same, right? Kind of overarching issues. What I mean by that is, yeah, everyone's trained the same way in NXT. Everybody has to wrestle the WWE style. Well, isn't that a problem? I mean, unless it's a safety issue, of course you want it corrected. But if it's not a safety issue, if it's just an issue of style, why the hell would you want everyone to feel and look the same in terms of the moves they do and the style of the match? Of course, you're going to have physically different looking people and costumes and entrances. I'm talking about the way people wrestle and the way the match is laid out from a psychological perspective. It like when everybody feels like they've been cut from the same cloth, that's a problem. In addition, again, the production. Everybody has to welcome you to Monday Night Raw. It's the first thing out of anybody's mouth that comes on the microphone when they open Raw. Most of the time. There might be a few rare exceptions. And yes, the announcers should do it. I have no problem with that. When you have somebody immediately always have to say that, it's embarrassing too. And it's just another microcosm of control that they have to do these things. The follow through on storylines, the insane amount of title matches. I mean, Kyle, again, see how I'm going down a deep dark hole. I'm going to stop there. All that to say, like, I still will forever be a WWE fan, right? And that's ultimately all WWE cares about. They can, I can sit here and just ram down WWE into the ground for the next 4 hours. But if I'm still putting my money into the company, still watching their pay-per-views, still subscribed to the Peacock or the WWE Network, or pouring my money into merchandise, they don't give a damn, right? They're a for-profit organization. So, okay, Kyle, boy, oh boy, that's a hell of a question that honestly could create its own podcast series. That is not just an episode. It is an entire, you could create a whole podcast out of that. That may not be a bad idea. If I had the time, I might, but I don't. Okay, what would you do to change this and why? I think I answered those things. I mean, what would I do to change those things? I mean, I would start from the top down with management, right? If I was CEO, I would have a massive conference with everybody involved. And I would say, look, there's clearly an issue of culture, of micromanagement going on. You know, we need to understand what the talent are feeling. They need to understand that there are not going to be repercussions, that it's not what I want, it's what the fans want. Vince will famously say that, yet do things that he wants and not the fans. You want an example? Roman Reigns is a babyface for 6 years, right? Until he finally decided that during the pandemic that, hey, you'll never see it coming. Let's do it at SummerSlam. You know, and it's been the biggest success WWE has seen in a decade. So there's been many times that Vince will say, do this. We don't do it for me. We do it for the audience. Yeah, nonsense. Nonsense. That's why the writers write for you and they don't write for what they feel could be the best creative decision for the company. And that's also the thing I would do, is not just talk to management about the culture and trying to change it and coming up with some kind of plan and relaying that down the line to the talent, but also the writers, the creative team. First of all, I'd cut that down. I don't need 1,000 people in the creative team coming up with 1,000 different ideas. It's too many people. Right. Too many cooks in the kitchen. Very overused phrase, but it's true. There's just too many freaking creative team members. I would cut it down. I don't know how or what that number would be, but it would be reduced. And I would say to them, I don't want you to write for me. Don't do what you think I would like. Do what you think the fans would like, and then send it to me. Right. I would just create a relationship with these people instead of just looking at them as just very dispensable items, like a widget in a company. Just get another one, right? Those are the couple things I would do. So much stuff, Kyle. Okay, I got to move on. I really got to move on. But great question. Honestly, an entire podcast could be created out of this. So, all right, let's move on. Whew, I feel like I need a break already. It's only 20 minutes in. Scott McCabe, who's also a supporter of the show on Patreon. Thank you, Scott. He says, hey, Matt, just watched the Extreme Rules pay-per-view and Raw from Monday night. And to be honest, it wasn't a bad 2 nights of pro wrestling. Liv Morgan's victory against the self-proclaimed most beautiful woman in WWE, Carmella, was a highlight. And hopefully Liv will start to get that push against the man in the near future. Yeah, I agree. That'd be cool. I like the New Day as a trio, but didn't think they needed a win in this match. Kofi could have taken the pinfall, and that could have led to a heel turn for Xavier Woods, but hey, let's move on. Street Profits versus the Usos and Charlotte Flair versus Alexa Bliss were both A-graded matches in my opinion. What do you think will happen to Alexa now Lily got mangled by the Queen? Well, as news travels very quickly, it has been reported that Alexa's going to take some time off, get an injury healed. Apparently, and I don't know how true this is, so don't hold me to it, but it's an injury non-wrestling related, or maybe it is. It's a nasal cavity surgery or whatever she's got to do. So maybe it is wrestling related incidentally, but she hasn't done a whole lot of wrestling over the last year and a half. So I'm thinking it's maybe just something she had to get done anyway. I don't know, but she's going to be taking some time off either way from what I understand. And it won't be too long. I don't have a number of weeks or months, but it's a short hiatus. And I think that'd be good for the Alexa Bliss character, honestly. I really do. And I don't know what she's going to do or be like when she gets back. Maybe she'll be the exact same. Maybe she'll be even darker. Maybe she'll kind of go in the middle. Maybe she'll go all the way back to her goddess character. I hope not. But I think Alexa Bliss right now, as I've said many times, and I'll say it again, is at a crossroads. And there's no better time to decide which way you're going in that crossroads than when you're taking a break from the ring. Because fans will be very interested to see and hear from you when you get back about where you're going, what you're doing. Is this a minor reset? What is it? So, okay. The head of the table, the Tribal Chief versus the Demon again was a solid match with both guys putting their bodies through anything to try to score the pinfall. The finish was a bit weird and could potentially lead to a further match down the line between these two, but I think it could even set up a Demon versus John Cena match at Crown Jewel. John Cena could return to the Friday Night SmackDown and suggest that he had something to do with the top rope collapsing, and that he did it as Finn Balor was running his mouth about him around SummerSlam season. What do you think? Could this happen? Well, I don't think that, well, first of all, this would turn John Cena heel, right? This would turn John Cena heel if this was the case. And I'm all for a John Cena heel turn, as many of us are, just to see what it would look like at this point. At this point, it's not for the future of the company or being angry they haven't done it. I mean, I'm way past that. That was a while ago now. I'm more just interested to see, what does a heel John Cena look like? You know, that said, I don't think this incident or this particular scenario is worthy of a John Cena heel turn. A John Cena heel turn would have to be even higher than that, a level above that, if it were to happen. And I do think at some point we'll see it. because I need to see it. I think all the fans need to see it. So, but as far as that scenario goes, I think it's plausible with this match that you're proposing, that the Demon versus John Cena, or at least Finn Balor, because you remember John Cena stole the SummerSlam championship match from Finn Balor, not the Demon. He stole it from Finn Balor, and Finn Balor said he's got a bone to pick with John Cena. And he mentioned that, and I like that. He didn't just forget that John Cena did indeed steal it from him. I know it was a level removed because Baron Corbin at the time was trying to steal it, and then John Cena stopped Corbin, but then did the very thing that Corbin was trying to do, and taking the contract from Finn Balor instead of being Mr. Hustle, Loyalty, and Respect. And if he respected Finn Balor, he would have just put the contract back, allowed Finn to sign it, and we move on. But rather, John Cena made a selfish move and stole the contract, although we're not told from a narrative perspective that's how we should look at it, but that's what happened. And Finn Balor said he's got a bone to pick. So I could see it at Crown Jewel. Certainly there's no expense that's spared at Crown Jewel. They just write however many zeros they need to make whatever match that they can. And I do think that it's plausible. But when John Cena comes back, which I do think will be sometime in the near future, it should be against Finn Balor. All right, let's continue on here. But my favorite part of the Extreme Rules pay-per-view was the return of the boss, Sasha Banks. She's obviously is returning as a heel. So where do we go with Becky? Still a heel? Or is she now a face as Sasha attacked both opponents on her return? This one's somewhat easy. The draft will take care of that. You can't have two top heels there and not have some kind of balance. So I think Sasha goes to Raw and you have Becky stay on SmackDown. Now you could have Sasha and Charlotte feud, but then you have also a heel there. I still think either way, Sasha probably goes to Raw. And that's how you take care of that. But hell, either way, they need some big babyface women. I mean, they need help on the babyface side. They've got Charlotte, Becky, and Sasha, 3 of the 4 horsewomen. All of them are heels. All of them. So, yeah, they need to balance the equation out here. I know a good heel turn is fun. A good heel turn is always what it creates the most clicks and interest. You don't ever hear about a big babyface turn. Heel turns is just, they're so much more fun, aren't they? Okay. Monday Night Raw, the return of the Hurt Business. And can I say about blooming time? I'm not sure what you mean. Finally, WWE has some sense with creative. 6-man tag match incoming at Crown Jewel if Oldberg can stay away, that is. So, as far as a 6-man tag with the New Day and the Hurt Business, probably. I feel like we already have kind of seen that a little bit, but the Hurt Business is back inexplicably. And as I said, I'm giving WWE 1 week to tell me why Shelton and Cedric are back. They get 1 week grace period and then look out. Big E has 3 clean pinfalls over Bobby Lashley. Surely this is the end of them. Who do you think will be the next challenge to Big E? Drew McIntyre? Yes. Easy one. Drew McIntyre. No questions. Yes. I mean, that's what we saw on Raw. I have no doubts. WWE has been really doing that lately with how they're setting up the next opponent. They've been doing that with Roman Reigns the last 3 opponents. So it's a fun little thing, right? They finally overcome, the heel overcomes, and then the next massive babyface returns to try to squash the heel. But in this case, it's babyface. So Shayna Basler is back to the arm-breaking badass blank she once was. I like Eva Marie, but my God, I was so glad the Queen of Spades broke her arm. Basler has got to go up against Charlotte Flair in the next few months and take the Raw Women's Championship. Sorry for the long-ass essay. Keep up the good work, Matt and the team. Scott in the UK. Thank you, Scott. And I have been clamoring for this version of Shayna Basler for a year. Many of us have. They did. You know what, though? Admittedly, Shayna and Nia Jax did a very nice job at adding value to the Women's Tag Team Championships. They did. They pulled them from obscurity once again, and they made them feel important. But now Basler's back to snapping arms, and apparently she's a heel. Nia Jax may have turned babyface from that. No one cares about Eva Marie. I don't care what they do with her character-wise. I want her off the damn roster. Be a manager. She does not belong on the women's roster. She just doesn't. Not in 2021. She feels like a throwback to the Divas era. And we just need to purge ourselves of that. So I don't care how hot she is. Doesn't matter. Don't care. In fact, the hotter she is, I think, is more of a reason to kind of push her to the side rather than bring her in, because women's wrestling has gotten away from this over-sexualization and the focus on how hot these women are. Like, yes, Carmella is making it part of her gimmick as a very, 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 very shallow heel character. I mean, that's as shallow as it gets. And I don't mean that in a complimentary way, like, she's so shallow, I want someone to kick her ass. I mean in a lazy, creative way. Like, there's nothing to Carmella anymore. And that's a shame, because I know she's capable of more in terms of depth of who she is, what she's after, instead of just, I'm the most beautiful woman. Oh, it's as lazy as it gets. I'm sorry. But, okay. Thank you, Scott. You're making me rant here, but that's a good thing. All right. Let's continue on here. And our next one is from Miller. And he writes in, how's it, Matt? And all the fans. Miller here from beautiful South Africa. I feel ECW was okay. Nothing much I can take out from it. Extreme Rules. Okay. Sasha Banks is back. I'm happy. I'm just like you. She's ridiculously good looking. I lost a little attention to the rest of the segment, but interesting story starting. She attacked both the heel and the face. So suppose she's going heel. You know how WWE loves triple threats. So definitely going to be a triple threat between Sasha, Becky, and Bianca. Do you think it will be a crown jewel, seeing that the women's matches there are a very rare occurrence? So, yes, it's a triple threat. I can almost guarantee you of that, because triple threats just happen seemingly every other week. And that's whatever. I've just succumbed to that. Why every triple threat has to be a no DQ still doesn't make sense to me, but does it happen at Crown Jewel? Yep. Has to. Because if you think that WWE is viewing this pay-per-view as a kind of an off pay-per-view, off the beaten path, exhibition, doesn't really matter, you're going to be sadly mistaken. I know a lot of people don't watch it because of just their political views or the dislike of the Saudi Arabia treatment of women, whatever it may be. Okay, there's lots of answers I've heard. But WWE doesn't care. And they will put on any big main event that they need to satisfy the prince and the Saudi Arabian government and really propagate whatever propaganda that the Saudi Arabian government wants to promote. You can guarantee yourself that during this pay-per-view, you will see something about how great the Saudi Arabian government is. How do I know that? We saw it last time. How the women can now have driver's licenses. And that they had the first ever women's, I think it was Natalia and who's the other one that's not here and she's pregnant? Lacey Evans. Yeah, I believe that was the very first women's match, and they had to wear T-shirts, be very conservative. And, the fact that we're celebrating something like that in 2021, it's shameful. I know that I understand the perspective that it's a feel-good moment. Look what WWE, they're the first one ever to do it. You're telling me that this is the first time that they've allowed women to perform at this level in 2021? I mean, why are we celebrating this? Why are we celebrating something that should not have taken this long to happen? Oh, well, at least it happened. That's not the point, right? That's not a better reason. That doesn't make things better. I know that they looked at it as a big moment, and Natalia was crying, Lacey Evans was crying, and we're supposed to be feeling so amazing about this moment. Nope. No, I didn't. Based on how the Saudi Arabian government treats the women over there, and we got some big propaganda piece from WWE that clearly they worked in collaboration with the government in Saudi Arabia, and this basically it was just nothing more than propaganda for the government. That's all it is. So you can guarantee we'll see another one of those. I don't get into politics here. I'm not talking about politics. I'm not talking about United States politics. I really try to venture away from that. I'm very passionate about it, I'll tell you that, but I'd really do my damnedest to stay away from it. But this is bleeding into wrestling, so that's why I'm talking about it. I don't know how I got on that, but yes, I think this triple threat match will happen at Crown Jewel with all three women wearing blankets or shower curtains. I don't know, some kind of insanely conservative outfit, which I have mixed feelings on that. I know I just said I'm not all about the women and how they look, but I don't want them looking like they're just the attire of hanging out on like a Saturday afternoon, right? Like they're about to watch Netflix. I don't need to see somebody come out in like a snuggle. Okay. And I don't know. It's not all about looks. It's not. I don't want them to wear something that, oh my God, look at her curves. That's not what I'm saying, right? So anyway, I've gone way down the dark, deep hole of rambling. Let's move out of it. Okay. The end of Flair and Bliss match, that was very confusing for me. Obviously, they had an idea with Bliss. With that weird white tablet thing in her mouth, which did not work out as WWE planned. No, it did not. It looked like Alka-Seltzer, didn't it? The whole post-match was very confusing, especially after Raw. Some stories that happened during this last week make some situations for the draft obvious. So my predictions. Big E and Drew both on Raw. And I actually thought Drew being drafted to SmackDown would be great. So many opportunities there for Drew with new storylines. But what does that leave Big E with? Then, who as WWE champion will obviously be on Raw after the draft. Yeah, look, this is difficult because you could say, oh, well, Drew should go to SmackDown and so should go to SmackDown. But you don't want to change everybody that's Raw to SmackDown and everybody that big name SmackDown to Raw, because then you have the same roster, just different color. So I'm thinking that Big E is after Drew. I mean, I'd have to maybe Seth Rollins. Probably Seth Rollins is my guess, because I think Seth Rollins is headed to Raw. But that leaves with Becky on SmackDown, which I don't know if WWE would want to have them on separate brands, or if they just don't care, or if they can politic their way into having themselves both on the same brand. I don't know, but I think Big E and Seth Rollins needs to happen. So Sasha, Becky, and Bianca will have to stay on SmackDown after the ending of Extreme Rules. So Carmella and maybe Liv to Raw, and Ripley and Nikki to SmackDown, as they both now are out of the women's tag team or the Raw Women's Championship picture. Tag team wise, I think the Mysterios will stay on SmackDown, as there is a new storyline now really starting with Sammy, meaning Sammy will also stay on SmackDown. Therefore, Ziggler and Rude should move, and Apollo and Commander Aziz, as Apollo is now cut from Intercontinental Championships, and maybe then Sheamus could come back to SmackDown, as his US run is now over. Cesaro now disappearing into oblivion again, unfortunately. The Bar could have an opportunity to reunite. I like that. That's a great observation with the Bar, Miller. Bloodline is staying on SmackDown, definitely. Roman is too much of the face of SmackDown, but who else could face him? That's why I think Brock should win at Crown Jewel to open up new storylines for SmackDown and give Roman a bit of a break. Unless Roman can win and change the story to Brock going all out later, just to prevent Roman from breaking his championship reign record. Yeah. I mean, bottom line, Bloodline is staying on SmackDown. They are too much of a cornerstone and identity of SmackDown, no doubt. Where's Elias? Maybe he makes his new return and a new Elias on SmackDown. I hope Jeff comes back to SmackDown, because Raw has not done well for his last career, or his last run of his career. I think they should now split Kofi and Xavier. That would be the best thing for both, as Xavier has not had the chance to be a singles competitor like Kofi or Big E. And then they got their WWE Championship. And out of their three, Xavier is my favorite, and feel he has such hidden potential that has not been exposed or given an opportunity. And Big E being WWE champion. Matt, you may get your wish. No more New Day. Thanks. Looking forward to the draft. Cheers. So thank you. And I hope I'm right. And if they don't want to split up the New Day traditionally, where somebody turns heel and one turns on the other and all of a sudden they're all battling, they could just easily, like I said, just do it very nicely in the draft. But they did that last year, and we all got excited that, oh my God, Big E's going to go on a singles run. and he created zero identity for himself. He continued to attach himself to the New Day. And to me, it was a regression of him, honestly, because the excitement went away as soon as he started continuing to clap and chant for New Day and wear his colors and do his weird facials and gyrations and just insanely hype promos, all of that. I mean, it's just, he could not let himself go from the New Day. It felt a lot like, if you're in high school and you graduate right after 4 years, and you're still, after you go to college, you're still stuck on like your high school football team. Like, man, we were the best, right? You still do the chants for the whatever school you're at, the anthem for whatever, your mascot, or it felt a lot like that. And it's like, dude, move on, find your own identity. You can do it. We believe in you. And it's still the same old, same old. So I hope I'm right. But again, you can't truly split them up because there's only 2 brands and 3 of them. So you're going to have 2 of them minimum on one show. Is NXT involved with the draft? You also ask. I don't think so. I don't think they're involved in the draft. You said it sounds like NXT stars could go to Raw or SmackDown, but no one to NXT. Yeah, let me look into that a little bit more because it could very well be a one-way street. And if it is a one-way street, that is so disrespectful to the NXT brand. Because we've been told many times that we're supposed to believe that the NXT brand is a true third brand. And what kind of message is that supposed to send if you're telling me that NXT stars can go outbound, but nobody comes in? Right? So what kind of message is that going to send? We'll have to see. I'll do some digging on that. Thank you, Miller. Hope all is well with you and family and everything else. And I'm sure we will talk next week. All right, let's get to, I know we got more here. Let's see. Mr. DJ Kuzmo, also a patron, big time supporter. And let's head to, as it's now going to be coined, and I'm going to give Michael Gross credit on this, our wonderful co-host, the DJ booth, right? What do you think about that? We're going to go into the DJ booth with Mr. DJ Kuzmo. Does that make sense? Or maybe like VIP area. I'm thinking of like a club, right? You have the DJ up on stage or wherever they're set up, and it's the DJ booth or VIP. One of the two. We'll get there. Maybe we'll even create some music. But let's jump in. Hey, Matt and WWE AEW podcast fam. This is DJ Kuzmo back at it again on your Mailbag show. So many things to say. So little time. So let's get to this first one. Extreme rules or non-extreme? That's the title of this paragraph. I gotta say, as much as this gimmick pay-per-view had its controversial moments in a couple of the matches, overall, from my perspective, it was a good pay-per-view. The irony of calling it Extreme Rules, where most of the matches weren't even extreme, doesn't make sense to me. Just call it No Limits. Or bring back the Unforgiven pay-per-view that originally, if I'm not mistaken, was booked in September. I believe you are correct, DJ. What happened to the Clash of Champions? Or for that matter, DJ, what about Night of Champions? Right? All these went away for gimmick name matches or gimmick name pay-per-views. Okay, you say even Payback. Anyway, I digress. The crowd, for the most part, was not invested as much in the matches, only the Liv and Carmella match, and then later on in the Roman versus Demon for the Universal title, were they way amped up, but I digress. I want to now share some of the good and bad moments that stood out to me for this pay-per-view. The good. Liv Morgan getting the victory over Carmella on the pre-show was another stepping stone in getting Liv Morgan into the main event scene. The crowd chanting "Let's go Liv, let's go Morgan" sounded more organic than that overused piped-in crowd noise that we were so used to hearing during the Thunderdome era. It's good to see and hear actual fans making their presence felt by who they root for and who they boo. The Queen of the Ring tournament is coming up soon, and it would be awesome to see Liv win the inaugural tournament and be next in line for a title opportunity against Becky Lynch in the foreseeable future. Let's go Liv, let's go Liv. Yeah, I'm with you, dude. Totally with you. I think most fans are in support of Liv. Give Liv a chance or whatever. I do wonder, are they going to label this a contenders match, or What are they going to label this as? I know it's Queen of the Ring tournament, but if you win, is it a number one contender? Is it just a contender? Of course, I'm just being facetious. All right. Number 2, I got to say, in a loss to the Usos, the Street Profits put up a good fight in this match, but when I saw Montez midsection being taped up from last Friday's beatdown from the Bloodline, I just knew that the Usos would retain their tag titles. I liked the psychology of the match, the way how the Usos put a lot of emphasis on attacking Montez's injured ribs to slow him down, and Dawkins did a good job with trying to pick up the slack from his injured partner. Sidebar, interesting that Dawkins did not come to the aid of Montez during the main event against Roman. I didn't know what that was all about, but kind of weird to me. Anyways, both teams got over in this match. The Usos will most likely remain the champs until probably early January, and sad to say, this may be the end of the Street Profits. I think Montez moves to Raw and Dawkins stays on SmackDown. Montez is a potential main event star in the making. It's just a matter of when. Oh, no question. To your second point, DJ. No question Montez, and everyone knows it. Dawkins knows it. Montez knows it. The announcers know it. The fans know it. Management knows it. This is the worst kept secret in the world right now, that Montez Ford is an absolute star in the making. I really, I did find the Street Profits absolutely obnoxious for a while, and particularly when they were doing the Viking Raiders garbage during the pandemic era. With anything you can do, I can do better, with volleyball and basketball, going to like high school gyms. It was crap. And I really, really disliked it. I still don't like how I don't know, their chants and all their high energy stuff. I mean, I guess it reminds me too much of the New Day, and maybe that's why I don't like them. But Montez Ford has a presence, and yeah, he's not the biggest guy, but his From the Heavens finish is great. He's athletic as hell. He's young. He's vibrant. He's got energy. His solo promos I enjoy way more than when he's with Dawkins. I think Dawkins is the part I really don't like of the team. And I don't hate the Street Profits. I just think Montez Ford may be too good to be stuck in this team. And Angelo Dawkins right now is certainly a step or two below him. And to answer your question, though, why didn't Dawkins come out to the aid of Montez? It's because he mentioned earlier in the show that Dawkins was at a wedding. That's why he didn't come out. But yeah, Montez Ford, could they get split? Yeah, I think it may be a little too early. But hell, they did it to Heavy Machinery, and they never even saw the light of day when it came to a tag team title run, which was just a criminal act. Absolutely criminal. Okay. The United States triple threat match was pretty good, not extreme by any extent, but an obvious win for Priest for him to continue his reign as champ as he progresses steadily on the main roster. Not much to say about Jeff Hardy, as his win-loss record continues to pile up with more losses, and most likely Sheamus might be moving to SmackDown because this feud is clearly over. Yep. I really don't know what to say, DJ. I mean, that's probably what's going to happen, although somebody did mention Cesaro going to Raw on my previous email, in which the Bar could be reunited, and I think it could. I think Cesaro and Sheamus getting back together? Sure, why not? Why not? It might be the best thing for them. Seriously, that's what I think is going to happen. So whether it's SmackDown or Raw that the Bar is on, I think the Bar is coming back. Now the bad. A six-man tag match? A six-man tag match? Are you kidding me, WWE? You start Extreme Rules with a six-man tag match. I could have sworn I was watching an episode of Monday Night Raw, because you would normally have from time to time the Teddy Long tag team special to start off on Monday Night Raw or on Friday Night SmackDown. What the hell, WWE? And for what reason is it? Bobby Lashley, Omos, and AJ Styles teaming against Big E, New Day, and what's the storyline? What's the incentive? What's the payoff? I would have booked the SmackDown tag team titles to start Extreme Rules and not this crap. A six-man tag team match, and not even a WWE title rematch between Bobby and Big E. Where is the logic, and how do you WWE create a quick build to a six-man tag team match on a freaking pay-per-view that has no payoff? I digress. You're preaching to the choir, buddy. I saw how many matches that WWE had, and Ashley and I, who had the preview show and prediction show, I was looking at them. I was like, these are all the matches? This doesn't feel right. There's just too few matches. And lo and behold, there we are. A 6-man tag team match that, I mean, honestly could and should have been on the pre-show. If it was on the pre-show, that would have made more sense. I mean, but again, you had Liv Morgan and Carmella, an actual advertised match on the pre-show. Yeah, but anyway, yeah, I'm with you, dude. Not much more to say there. Again, I think they just looked at it and said, star power. How are we going to get these 6 guys on the pay-per-view? Let's just throw them in a random 6-man tag. That's it. The finish that we all wanted, point number 2, the finish that we all expected has been shattered, torn, ripped apart like Charlotte Flair as she ripped apart Lily. For the most part, out of all the title matches that were on this pay-per-view, the Raw Women's title was the one that we could all agree was going to be changing hands, with Alexa Bliss being the new champ. This was a total insult and a proverbial slap in the face to all the fans in Alexa's hometown that were rooting for her this entire match. The match itself was good, but the finish of the match was not favorable to the fans who are sick and tired of seeing Charlotte as champion. And then you have Charlotte rip Lily to what? Get some heel heat? Absolute BS, uncreative for doing that. Then to see Alexa get enraged and start foaming at the mouth with what probably looked like toothpaste or Alka-Seltzer, looked bizarre. And I was getting an eerie vibe from this match, from how this match concluded, in the same manner as to how The Fiend versus Randy Orton ended at WrestleMania. This definitely looks like the end of this version of Alexa, and this may be the WWE writing her off TV for a while, but for how long? Well, DJ, if you've been listening thus far, I did already address this regarding Alexa, and that she is going to be taking some time off to work on an injury. Again, these are alleged reports, take that for what you will. I know Mr. Dave Meltzer is getting pounded out there on social media. I stay neutral when it comes to other wrestling news journalists, but yeah, I'm with you. Like I was waiting for the crowd to boo the hell out of that part. I was waiting for the crowd to just turn on it and go, yeah, this is crap. But I don't think the crowd knew what to make of it, and they didn't want to boo Alexa Bliss. So there's kind of a conflict of interest there, and the fans didn't really know what to do. I'm surprised they didn't actually boo the hell out of it, honestly, because it deserved to be. But this is a crossroads for Alexa, and we'll see what happens. Okay, let's see here. Point number 3. We all expected some sort of pin and win clean finish in the Becky versus Bianca, but we got a DQ due to interference by Sasha Banks, which of course gives the win to Becky. I'm taking a devil's advocate approach. Firstly, the match between Becky and Bianca. Having the match end in a DQ was a good way to, quote, protect both champion and challenger. And then when Sasha Banks is in the picture, there is or can be a potential triple threat match on this Friday's SmackDown episode of Night 1 of the WWE Draft. However, to counter this argument and debating myself, I would say, shouldn't this match between Becky and Bianca be a no DQ, since this is a Extreme Rules pay-per-view, so that we can get a clean finish? And obviously, Sasha interferes in the match by distracting Bianca, and then Becky hits Bianca with the manhandle slam for the win and the pin, where we could see the storyline go 2 ways. Let's see. Number 1, Sasha and Bianca feud against one another in a grudge match in order to get to challenge Becky, or Bianca gets drafted to Raw, and Sasha feuds with Becky for the title on SmackDown. Bianca has a bright future on the main roster, but it seemed that her main roster journey will continue on Monday Night Raw. Very well. It very well could. I think Bianca could be headed to Raw, but again, she is stuck with, right now, Sasha Banks and inevitably Becky. As I mentioned a few minutes ago, that this is going to be a triple threat. It could happen at Crown Jewel. Very well could, and it probably will. But WWE has certainly got no shame with putting title matches on free TV, so there's that too. Lastly, and certainly not least, the epic Roman versus Demon title match was a hell of a roller coaster ride, to say the least. Now, whether if the ring collapse was a work or an act of God, we will never know. We could all speculate that it was a work, but why, as the Demon was about to hit a top rope maneuver on Roman, that this incident would take place, and it was downright way over the top. Bringing back the Demon and hyping him up as this undefeated on the main roster, and then having him lose to Roman Reigns. I don't know where creative is going with this, and for the 3rd time this year, a supernatural character was booked in a match, then they lose. The Fiend at 37, Alexa Bliss at Extreme Rules, and now the Demon at Extreme Rules. Do you see a pattern here? How the hell does a supernatural character in 2021 come back from a loss? The Fiend, i.e. Bray Wyatt, is no longer in the WWE and most likely debuting in AEW very soon. Alexa Bliss is most likely taking some time off from TV, and then we have the Demon, Finn Balor. What does creative do with him? I used to be a fan of the supernatural stuff like Taker and Kane back in the late Attitude Era, throughout the Ruthless Aggression Era, when we believed that they were really the same character in real life. But since we know who these wrestlers are because of their social media accounts, we can clearly see the difference between character that they play and the person that they are in real life. Not to go on a long tangent, I hope this makes sense. Yeah, it does, DJ. It certainly does. And I think social media has been an absolute killer of whatever sanctity it was left of protecting the business. I mean, so imagine if social media existed when Stone Cold and The Rock were feuding, and then you see a picture of them like smiling arm in arm at a restaurant having a steak dinner. I mean, it's such a killer. It is an absolute killer when it comes to that kind of stuff. Okay, a couple more topics here. The future of pay-per-views. I recently listened to the What If episode. What if WWE abolished B-level pay-per-views? My thoughts are, I agree with Anthony, because since having all these title matches on free TV, there isn't really a need to have more than 4 pay-per-views. And the irony is that most fans don't even pay the price for the WWE or for the pay-per-view, since they could stream it or watch it, quote unquote, illegally. That's true, if you know what I mean. Keep the mega title matches like the Universal title and the WWE title on the line for each of the 4 pay-per-views, and have the other titles be featured more on free TV. As much as I dislike the notion of title matches on free TV, this is pretty much the new norm moving forward. It's about getting the increase in viewership and sponsorships, which equals more revenue, or rest my case. Yeah, it does. I understand the logic for it, that it is for profit, and sometimes they do sacrifice the best creative for more money. Like, they know that in the short term, this is better for ratings, which in the short term gets them more money, but are they doing long-term damage? They're not talking about that. Are they doing long-term damage to the championships, to the viewers, to educate them that title matches come and go? They're always awarded. It doesn't matter who you are. We have open challenges. Come on. We'll at least have every title on the line every week, right? And that nostalgia is going to wear off quickly. That feeling of something different is going to wear off very quickly. So it's a short-term thinking for long-term hurt, right? So, but again, I do agree that is the new norm, and I think I'm going to eventually have to just succumb to the new norm, or probably lose listeners for complaining about it every week. All right. Quick sidebar. AEW has only 4 pay-per-views that are Revolution, Double or Nothing, All Out, and Full Gear. From time to time, they would have special shows or super shows and an episode of Dynamite that have the look and feel of a mega pay-per-view event. For instance, most recently, AEW Grand Slam in Arthur Ashe Stadium was a special event on an episode of Dynamite or Rampage. AEW doesn't seem to be losing money in terms of not having pay-per-views every single month, and they are taking the wise approach and just having 4 pay-per-views, which is less expenses, less traveling, and opportunities for the wrestlers to be with their family and friends on their nights off, and of course, a whole host of other benefits. Tony Khan sure knows how to keep the wrestlers and fans happy. Yeah, look, I mean, from everything I've heard, morale is through the roof there, which is, I mean, you can't underscore the importance of morale. You can't measure it. You can't see it, but you feel it. It's one of those things that is just there and you know it. And I think it's one of the cancers of WWE is their micromanagement and toxic, I may get fired culture at any moment, WWE backstage. And that's the opposite here in AEW. And having 4 pay-per-views is, I think, makes all of those 4 pay-per-views feel super important. But if you're going to do this in WWE and only do the big title matches at those 4 pay-per-views, then you're going to have a champion presumably hold the championship for 3 months at a time, because if you're only defending them 4 times a year, I know that those 4 pay-per-views aren't evenly split, but say they are, you're going to have that champion hold that championship until the next big pay-per-view. But yeah, I hear you, man. AEW right now is doing things they can't miss right now. They can't miss, and it's fun to watch. God, it's fun to watch. All right, WWE Draft Picks, and this is your final segment here. And yes, I see you have a voicemail, but we'll get to that on the second half of our show. WWE Draft Picks. Here are 5 names from SmackDown that I think may go to Raw, and 5 names from Raw that I think may go to SmackDown. Not in any particular order. From SmackDown to Raw, Big E by default because he is WWE champion, but he's technically still on the main roster, or SmackDown roster. Rick Boogs, Montez Ford, Bianca Belair, Apollo Crews. All go from SmackDown to Raw. The wild card from SmackDown to Raw, Carmella or Sammy. And from Raw to SmackDown, Bobby Lashley, AJ Styles, Sheamus, Asuka, Drew. The wild card from Raw to SmackDown is Nia Jax or Jinder Mahal or Elias. That's all for now. Peace. Thank you, DJ. I like those picks. I really, really, really do. Those are intelligently thought out picks, and I think you will probably find your success rate pretty high on that one. Okay, let's get to a very, very short email from Noah. Noah Dansby writes in, he said, would you consider the ending to the Balor Reigns a distraction finish? If so, why? No. Distraction finishes happen from an outside entity. They don't happen from what's going on inside the ring. It has to be a third party involved. And I do believe it was intentional, by the way. I know DJ Kuzmo did mention maybe it was an act of God. No. It was intentional. Because now you are protecting the demon by having something just out of nowhere happen. Something that was out of the control of both parties. And it's just lady luck on the side of Roman Reigns. That's how they protected the demon while giving Roman Reigns the victory. But Noah, to answer your question, no. A third person has to be involved, in my mind, to be a distraction finish. Thank you. Let's continue on, and let's see here. Joe Owen writes in, just heard the news story of WWE planning a big pay-per-view in the UK, September 2022, at Wembley, most likely. Could this be to Drew dethroning Roman, do you think? Well, Joe, I don't know if Roman will make it another year. If they do, more power to them. I want it, and I've said this from the beginning too, and very consistent on it, and I do not waver. I want Roman to be champion for so long that people are screaming at WWE to take it off of him. I think that they will not be able to get past WrestleMania this year, though. I think WrestleMania is probably where he loses it, potentially either to Drew McIntyre or The Rock at WrestleMania. That's probably where and what happens. But I just don't think, I've heard about that too, about the pay-per-view in UK. It's a year away, and I don't think WWE will have the courage or the plan to have Roman stay champion all the way for another year. I don't think they will. Again, I think Mania is where that ends. Thank you, Joe. Let's see here. Owen. Owen writes in and says, don't you dare be, I can't, I'm going to say this, but I'm going to read it. I cannot act this out. My soul won't allow me, but you'll know exactly what I'm talking about here. Don't you dare be sour. Clap for your world famous resident heel and feel the power. Yeah. I know you wanted me to read it the way that you wrote it. Not happening. I can't do it. My soul will not allow me. Okay. Don't worry. I have not become deluded. The New Day still sucks. I just wanted to annoy Matt. Well, congratulations. You have. Hey, don't boo me. It's my job, okay? First of all, I thought Extreme Rules was terrible. Wow. Quite the contrast of views here on Extreme Rules. I like it. Being from the mighty UK, I did not stay up until 3 a.m. to watch this. I also did not pay anything for it, luckily. By the way, I wanted to give a big shout out to the guy who said in the mailbag about watch Wrestling 24. If you know, you know. And if you don't, and you're from the UK like me, where we don't have access to AEW Rampage without subscribing to Fight TV, then I advise you check it out. So everybody, I guess, check out Watch Wrestling 24. I did, however, think the main event was very good. I really liked how the music was building up as Finn climbed the ropes, and for a second I was convinced that Finn was going to win. The ending, I guess, was creative. It's better that they try new stuff and it fails than having Paul Heyman or the Usos have to be the thing that saves Roman like always. However, the effect of the rope is rope breaking doesn't make any sense when earlier Sheamus was up there taunting his opponents. Yeah, it doesn't, but maybe that's all the more reason that this was an act of God. At least that's a planned act of God. This was not a shoot, okay? But yeah, I know what you mean. Like Sheamus was up there, and maybe he loosened it just enough so that the next person that did a top rope move, it snapped, right? Maybe it was the old, I can't get it open, and then you give it to, for example, earlier today, my wife gave me like a jar of spaghetti sauce to open, and I could not get it open. I was struggling, could not do it. And then I handed it to her after I gave up and cussed a few times, and she just popped it right open. And it's like, you talk about, first of all, your manhood is severely affected and scarred by this. I mean, these are traumatizing events as a man, I got to say. And the old adage is what saves you, what your go-to is for your ego's protection is, well, I loosened it up for you. I think the same thing happened here, where if you want to look at it through, well, Sheamus was up there, you could say, well, Sheamus loosened it up for Finn. Sheamus is a big dude. He's rarely ever up there. Okay. All right. I don't know where the hell I go from top rope breaking to spaghetti sauce, but that we did it. Somehow we traveled there. Oh boy. Okay. For those who remember, last week I said Finn Balor was going to beat Roman. Of course, I did actually believe it, but I wanted to put a drop of doubt inside your minds, which may have made the match more enjoyable. You see, I can be nice. Well, isn't that so nice of you, Owen? Kenny Omega versus Bryan Danielson was amazing. I understand some people were pissed off the match being a draw, but to be honest, it's the best finish possible. It protects both wrestlers while still being to put on a 10 out of 10 match like they did. Yes, I've had the privilege of being able to watch most of this match. I haven't really reviewed it or talked about it much, but that doesn't mean that it wasn't one of the best matches I've seen. I mean, and the finish, by the way, awesome. Love it. It's, when's the last time we had a draw in pro wrestling? People are always asking for new. What's old is new again. This, in the old days, would have been called a Broadway. That was the term for draw. And I don't mean like New York City Broadway, but it's pronounced the same way. A Broadway was a draw, and that's awesome. Because that means it makes you want to see the next one and get a damn winner. And they're so good with one another, you're not going to complain that you're going to get another match. Again, so many good things came from a draw. No one expects a draw anymore. But it happens. So, finally, Matt, I have a question for you. Inside the world of WWE, who do you think is the most powerful wrestler of all time? By that, I mean the wrestler who could beat all the others. That's all for now. Owen, your resident heel. Sent from the hands of the great one. Well, thank you, Owen. You are a resident heel. Thank you so much. But who's the most powerful wrestler? Who could beat all the other wrestlers? When I say, well, here's the thing. Being the most powerful doesn't automatically mean you can beat all the other wrestlers. So if the most powerful is the only qualifier, oh boy. I mean, I'd still have to say Brock Lesnar. I still believe Brock Lesnar is the most powerful and could beat all the other wrestlers. As we had, who was it? Pat McAfee say, if aliens invaded Earth, the human species would send Brock Lesnar to be the one guy. If they wanted to send one of their species versus one of ours, the human species would choose Brock Lesnar to fight on our behalf. I believe that. So thank you, Owen. Okay, let's see here. What else do we have? Dennis. Dennis writes in, he says, hello guys. I'm emailing you after watching Extreme Rules. Some good matches, which were ruined by some crap supernatural endings. I thought I was watching Stranger Things with grappling and bad creative. I cannot understand any of this. I know Vince is in control, which is terrible and sad. Just look at NXT. I'm sad at how it turned out. Thank you for AEW. Thank you for Tony Khan, giving the talent creative control. I love WWE, but I'm beginning to hate it. And it's not the wrestlers' fault because they are great. I'm annoyed because the likes of Sami Zayn, John Morrison, and Ricochet could be used better. I actually said a year ago to a friend of mine that Angel Garza and Humberto Carrillo should be a heel tag team because, first of all, they're cousins and have great chemistry together, and I would also like to see them as eventual opponents for RK Bro. if the build is right. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Dennis. Yeah. By the way, when the hell is Stranger Things season 4 coming out? You got me thinking about Stranger Things. It's been forever since we saw a new season. Obviously, COVID delayed that. But anyway, so yeah, Vince is in control, buddy. You're going to see all of this continue until Vince is in the grave, or he is mentally incapable of continuing to run his organization. I think the latter is more likely before the former. I think he will lose his mind before he's in the grave. Age catches up to all of us. Even the great almighty Vince McMahon that once beat God in a tag team match with him and Shawn Michaels. I mean, if you don't know what I'm talking about, I'm pretty sure that was in 2006. Vince McMahon and Shane McMahon were in a tag team match with Shawn Michaels and God, and Vince McMahon beat the team of God and Shawn Michaels because Vince was convinced that Shawn Michaels had divine intervention to beat him at that year's WrestleMania. I believe that was the logic. So anyway, yeah, Sami Zayn not being utilized more, John Morrison, Ricochet, it is puzzling, but you know what? Like you said, it makes you wonder what AEW for them could be. It does, and that's a great thing that there's another place to go for people to work and make a hell of a living, not just minimum wage. So, I mean, that's the great thing is they have a ton of cash. All right, let's. So I've had a lot of people, send me pictures of what a bear cat is. Here's what it is according to Wikipedia, because I asked what the hell a bear cat is when Keith Lee now has Keith quote unquote Bearcat Lee, and I tore it apart last night and I said somebody send me a definition. So somebody sent it to me via email. It's just like a picture from Wikipedia, and it looks like apparently this bearcat it looks like a big raccoon. So if that's true, that's terrible. But I know somebody else sent me another version of the definition, so we'll get to that. But all right, let's continue here. And Mr. Casual Wrestling Fan, who I feel like it's been a while, he writes in. He says, "It's Mr. Casual Wrestling Fan here, short and sweet. I hate Big E as WWE champion. Until next time." Well, Mr. Casual Wrestling Fan, that is the shortest email you've ever sent us. But there's part 2. You said, "I just want to say," aha, there it is. "A Bearcat is a SWAT/military vehicle. Also, a Bearcat is an actual animal. That's all for now. Thank you, Mr. Casual Wrestling Fan, for the education." I mean that sincerely because I've never heard of a Bearcat ever, but it's a real animal that does not look very intimidating, by the way. I'm more intimidated by a SWAT or military vehicle than an actual Bearcat. Like the animal. I just saw a picture of it. If you don't know what it is, just pop it in Google. It is not intimidating, nor does it represent Keith Lee in any way at all. But thank you, Mr. Casual Wrestling Fan. And I hope to hear from you soon, buddy. I feel like it's been too long. Okay, let me see how many more emails. I think we're getting real low on emails, which is a good thing because I'm ready to hear from you guys, as I'm sure you're ready to stop hearing me talk. So let's get to our final email from Terry. He's from Tennessee, Springfield, Tennessee, to be exact. He writes in and says, "I chimed in last week and said the Hurt Business should get back together, and my prediction came to pass. Now, hopefully Vince can make a good run with them this time. It might be tough for them, though, being they're all not that good at promos, but Cedric Alexander may be the best one of the three. His voice is annoying, but now with McIntyre eyeing Big E, maybe the draft will put the Hurt Business and the Bloodline in the same show and let them work together since Roman did pin Lashley. Maybe they could whip something out of that. I know it'll be 2 heel factions, but I can think WWE can make it work." Yeah, I think so too. You know, I know that the Bloodline versus the Hurt Business, I'm sure, is already on the docket. I just want, hopefully Terry, you are too, I want an explanation of how the Hurt Business got back together. You know, credit to you for calling it, but does anybody care about the reasoning? Am I the only one that cares about why the hell Cedric and Shelton are back after what happened when they broke up? All right. let's see what happens. Let's see their explanation if there is one. All right. I think that is it now. That is it. Let's finally get to those voicemails. And Mr. DJ Kuzma, we're going back to the DJ booth, and he's a patron, so he gets priority support. So let's see what Mr. DJ has to say this week.
Hello, WWE Podcast World. This is none other than DJ Kuzmo back at it again on your Mailbag show. I'm recording live once again on a Tuesday evening. And we could finally say goodbye and good riddance to the Extreme Rules pay-per-view. First and foremost, the only thing that was extreme about the Extreme Rules pay-per-view was the last thing that we saw in the most chaotic, in the most roller coaster of a ride in the Roman Reigns versus the Demon Universal title match. I don't want to get too involved in that, but I just want to say that I enjoyed the pay-per-view. Yeah, there were a couple of matches on the card that made me want to scratch my head and say, what the F? But overall, good show. And we could finally move on to one of the biggest pay-per-views. I'm talking about the Crown Jewel pay-per-view. Oh, boy. Coming, I think it's October 21st on a Thursday afternoon. Oh, man, I just can't wait to see that. You could hear the crickets in the background. But anyway, I want to talk about Damien Priest. Shout out to Damien Priest, the birthday boy. He just turned 39 years old. He is still our United States champion. And I'm liking so far what creative has done with him. He is progressing steadily. He is moving far, far away from The Miz, who could stay on Dancing with the Stars. Moving far, far away from John Morrison, who was somewhere in catering. And move far, far away from Bad Bunny. I like how Damien Priest, our United States champion, he has the look, he has the presence, he's feeling more comfortable on the main roster, and that's good to see because history has always shown, like Keith Lee, like Rhea Ripley, that when you hit the main roster, you don't really hit the mark so quickly. But shout out to Damien Priest. Hope to see some big things happening in his future as he slowly climbs the ladder to success, hopefully in the near future, coming for once he drops that United States title, hopefully going for that WWE title. But now, I want to next talk about the other former NXT call-up. I'm talking about Shayna Basler. Shout out to Shayna Basler. Finally, we could see that she is no longer with Nia Jax. She is finally on her own. And she is now one of the most dominant, one of the most intimidating people that you would ever want to meet in a dark alleyway. And I'm talking about Shayna Basler. The fact that she broke Nia Jax's arm last week. And then this past Monday night on Raw. Oh, I'm sorry, G-Man. But she put the hurt on Eva Marie. And Eva Marie was crying and screaming and bawling. And just to see that, to see the old Shayna Basler, it's so happy to see her back. It's so happy to see that intensity from this character. And I hope to see where this goes. I hope to see that she breaks more people's arms. If she stays on Raw or she moves to SmackDown, wherever she goes, I want her to keep that intensity, to keep breaking people's arms, to show that I am here on the main roster. And I'm going to here to, of course, like we all do, make a statement. So shout out to Shayna Basler. Now that we can see that Nia Jax is no longer in the picture, and we want to see somehow in the near future that Shayna Basler gets back into that main event role for either the Raw Women's title or the SmackDown Women's title. Last but not least, I watched Monday Night Raw last night, and man, when I saw these two brothers, I had to say, wait a minute, are you kidding me? Okay. Let me just break the suspense. I'm talking about none other than Shelton Benjamin and Cedric Alexander. So wait a minute, the Hurt Business is back? But I thought that like 3 months ago, MVP said that they were dead weight, that they were not doing anything, and they removed them from the Hurt Business. But now, After all this time, you break the Hurt Business to bring them back to even the odds with Bobby Lashley in the steel cage match on Monday Night Raw last night. It makes no sense. Where is the storyline? Where the consistency of how we got to this point that Shelton Benjamin and Cedric Alexander are now back together again with Bobby Lashley? I don't understand this picture. Maybe creative could kind of give me some clarity as to what the hell am I seeing here on my TV. Why the hell would you break the Hurt Business to begin with? They were doing so well. Cedric Alexander and Shelton Benjamin were the tag team champions. Of course, MVP was the coach, the guy that kept the team together. And of course, Bobby Lashley, our WWE champion. So, going forward, I don't know what to expect from this so-called of reunion. But anyway, I hope y'all have a blessed week. WWE Draft is coming this Friday night. I am excited for that. I am excited to see what's going to be shaken up in the Raw rooms with, Fox and USA, and they're going back and forth saying, oh, I want this superstar, I want that superstar. But it should be one hell of a interesting show, and I will talk to you all next week.
All right, DJ, great to hear from you. And look, you're as excited about Shayna Basler as I am. I want to see her continue to snap arms. You got to remember though that she can only snap so many arms before there's nobody left for her to compete with. So as fun as this is, it can't continue forever with her snapping arms because, again, there's only a X amount of people she can do that to, and there's a certain level of star that she can do that to. I mean, she's not going to start snapping Charlotte's arm and, Becky Lynch if she comes on the show. I mean, there's certainly a limit, but I am all for the snapping of arms. And to your point about the end of your message, the draft, this is going to be a big deal because for a first time, creative gets to hit the reset button. I'm sure the creative team is just, especially if the creative team assigned to Raw, are breathing a sigh of relief. Like, okay, thank God we get a whole new fresh set of talent to create programs with, and they've been certainly stretching thin with their matchups over the last few months, and it's finally time for them to hit the reset button. I know that they are probably relieved as hell. But thank you, DJ, for all the comments, all of the effort you put into making this show a lot of fun every week. So I will be looking forward to next week. Okay, let's continue on, guys, with our next voicemail.
Hey, it's Kyle from Baltimore. Last night in Wolves, I think for me personally, I enjoyed 2 matches. I guess 3. It was the Becky Bianca match and the main event for Reigns and Balor. So for Becky and Bianca, I enjoyed that match. It was great. And then with Sasha coming back, I did not see that coming. Really, though, I didn't think it was going to happen really. So I'm kind of glad she's back. And now it's going to probably be a triple threat match, I would think. I needed to maybe a SmackDown, I don't know, but then who goes where? I still believe that Bianca should go to Raw, but now that Sasha's back and to me do a triple threat match, I don't think that anymore. So I'm glad that Sasha's back, and so we'll get to see what Sasha has to say on Friday, and look forward to that. What happens next with that is going to be a fun match, however that happens. Ron and Balor and Reigns, that match is great too. I don't know where Balor goes from here. I don't know, but I thought the main event was great. That was the best match of the show as well. I thought the match was great, and Reigns is on a different level as Universal Champion. I never once been a fan of Reigns before, but Reigns now has become one of my favorite wrestlers since he came back last year. So I'm glad he's the Universal Champion, and SmackDown's is stacked of awesome wrestlers, and Raw needs help. So I think someone's going to Raw, and that someone is the women's division. I think will be Bianca Belair. But that was it. I enjoy Extreme Rules Extreme Rules itself. It was fun, and those 2 matches were my favorite matches of the night. So that was it. Thanks for my call. Bye.
Well, hello, Kyle. Thank you, as always, every week for your contributions. It does make this show what it is. Without voicemails, without emails, doesn't exist. So thank you, Kyle. And the whole idea of Bianca going to Raw, and I commented on this earlier, I think is reasonable. It's realistic. And I also think it's possible that Sasha and Bianca don't end up on the same brand, yet still have a match at a Crown Jewel. Because they could look at this as the wrap-up pay-per-view. So maybe Bianca could be drafted to Raw, but she doesn't have to report to Raw until, hell, I don't know, maybe after the draft. Or maybe she has to report to Raw next week, but her match with Sasha can still happen. And I'm fine with it being a wrap-up pay-per-view. Yeah, the pay-per-view being a wrap-up is fine if they want to do it that way, and I think they could get away with it. But yeah, I think Bianca going to Raw, while I enjoy her on SmackDown, I think she's also been the identity for the women on that show. I'm cool with her coming to Raw if need be. Bianca has just done such a great job over the last, really since WrestleMania, even before then, with this character, and kudos to everybody involved. Thank you, Kyle, for your input. Let's keep rolling.
Hey man, this is Justin from Maryland. I just want to give my thoughts on Raw and ask you a couple questions. So I did enjoy Raw. I was very into the main event between Big E and Lashley. It was good to see the Hurt Business back. It was definitely surprising and a little too late, but I was kind of confused on Drew McIntyre coming out at the end because I thought that we all can agree that we want him to go to SmackDown. So how do you think it's going to play out? I've been hearing that maybe they could have Lashley go over to SmackDown and maybe he can feud with Reigns at some point, because I think they brought the Hurt Business back because MVP is out. He just had surgery, so he's not going to be there. So you can't really have Lashley by himself. I mean, you could, but I guess they just wanted him to be paired with somebody rather than be by himself. So do you think that Drew's going to stay on Raw, or do you think he can go to SmackDown? Maybe they just wanted to just tease it. I'm not sure, but I don't want Drew going against Big E because he's gonna lose for one unless he turns heel, because I don't think the fans are ready to see him as champion yet. So I feel like Drew should just go to SmackDown or just stay away from Big E right now, because Big E's not going to lose. I like the Usos were teased with going against Chad Gable and Otis. I think that's going to be a good program, but I don't think they'll win. I think that they're building towards AJ and Omos against Randy and Riddle one more time, probably a Crown Jewel, because normally when, the opponent beats the champion, then they get a shot. So I think Randy will come back next week, and we'll find out where that goes. But I'm definitely excited for the draft, so definitely looking forward to that, and I'll talk to you next week.
Always great questions, Justin. So much there. So let me touch on the big thing that you wanted to know about, and it's a great question, right? We got teased with Drew versus Big E at the end of Raw. Yet we have a draft coming up, and many people suspect that Drew is going to SmackDown. WWE is not going to move Roman to Raw. Therefore, they're not going to move Big E to SmackDown. They will draft Big E to Raw, so he'll be an official part of Raw. The WWE Championship will remain on Raw. And I think Drew will remain on Raw. Now, how I think they get around the whole Roman Reigns versus Drew match that is inevitable, and Drew does need to get the hell off Raw, is they announce a massive trade on social media has been made, right? They start promoting that something massive happened post-trade, right? They start talking about maybe after the match with Big E and Drew happens. Again, you're not going to do it right away. You're not going to do it the week after the draft, but rather a month or two after, you announce a massive trade has been made. Tune into Raw to find out. And you have maybe Seth Rollins come to Raw, and you have Drew McIntyre go to SmackDown. That's how I think you get around it and yet still have a Big E Drew McIntyre matchup. You're right, though. I think fans are still not ready to see Drew as champion again. The fans, I think, need a year break from that. But with them so thin on star power, particularly babyface power, star power, I don't know if they really felt that they had an option. Now you're looking at babyface versus babyface, but I don't want to see Drew as a heel just yet. I mean, we saw him as a heel when he was with Shane McMahon as the heavy, and he was okay as a heel, but I think he really excels as a babyface. So I'm not ready for that either, and I don't want him to be sacrificed as a heel turn to the altar of Big E. To me, it's not worth the worth it. But thank you, Justin, for that. And the Usos teasing Chad and Otis. Yeah, nobody talking about that. It happened so briefly, and there was nothing really said. They're just staring at each other. But I think that's going to be a cool matchup, and I want to see what Otis can do against legitimate opponents, to see how he's booked against them. So, and also to see if WWE has put a limit on Otis, where if he and Chad lose to the Usos, it's like, oh, okay, well, that's where they're at, just below the Usos. It'll be very telling in that matchup, which is going to happen, where they view the progress of Otis and Chad Gable. So thank you so much, Justin. It is always appreciated. Let's continue on.
What's up, WWE Podcast World? It's Randy from Prospect, Connecticut. Now, finally, Shayna Basler is breaking some arms. That is what I'm talking about. I am tired of seeing Eva Marie. Yes, a long time ago, I was saying, oh, maybe she's changed. Nope, same crap as she always did. And apparently they're making the news saying that she might have dislocated her arm, so I'm assuming that means she's going to be gone for a while. Thank God. See you later. As far as Alexa Bliss goes, I don't know if you heard, she's apparently taking a couple months off from wrestling. I think when she does eventually come back, it's the old Alexa Bliss, which is what we need. Honestly, this gimmick is done, I think. They've done what they could with it. That's pretty much that. What do you think about that? My question, which I said in my mailbag, is to you, really, Drew McIntyre, Big E, I'm still confused about that. They're both, they're both freaking baby faces. I don't understand what they're doing there. Are they going to turn Drew a heel? If that's the case, I guess all right, but I'd rather see him on SmackDown than anything, because I want him to go against Roman, but I don't know. Anyway, thanks again for what you guys do. I hope everybody's enjoying everything. Crisis, can't wait to hear your message. I'll talk to you then, but later.
Hey, Randy. Good to hear from you. And I like your question about Alexa Bliss when she returns. I might have answered this a little bit earlier, but the more thorough answer is, yeah, I don't care if Alexa Bliss, in fact, I do think that having her return to a more normal character or some altered version of her previous one is fine, but I want an explanation what propagated that change. I don't want it to just happen and all of a sudden somebody found the kryptonite for her evil character and now all of the evil has been drawn out of her. What caused it? How did this happen? I want an explanation. And I think we'll get one. We should, because that character, like you said, has fleshed itself out, and it's good. There's no problem with that. I have no issue with that. I don't think you would either. It's okay that there are life cycles, there are time expiration dates on characters, which is always the case. And that's how you survive in wrestling, is evolving. It's just continuing to change and move with the times and constantly try to make yourself feel fresh. It's easier said than done, no doubt. But with Alexa Bliss, that character has certainly been vanquished, and perhaps all of her power was located in Lily, and that's how she gets around it and they move on. But yeah, I'm all for that. And yeah, Drew and that whole scenario I did just go over about a potential massive trade a month or so down the line after this matchup with Big E is concluded, which I don't think will go beyond one pay-per-view. I don't think there's any need to make it a personal feud with these two, particularly if you're not trying to turn one of them heel. It's just babyface. And that is, I think, where it ends. So thank you so much, Randy. Let's keep things rolling.
Hey, it's the Crisis. You know where it is, you know who it is, and I'm just going to give it to you quick. Extreme Rules felt like Raw, and Raw felt like a pay-per-view. I'm going to give WWE a pass, though, as the draft's coming up. So really, they were just throwing people together from Friday night through the pay-per-view all the way through Monday. Rumor on the street is Alexa's leaving for a bit, and that is fine. And I'm predicting right now that she comes back at the Royal Rumble and takes it. Shout out to the whole Patreon fan. It was cool kicking it with y'all during the pay-per-view. It was a lot of fun, I gotta say, and it's nice getting more material for shows, you know what I'm saying? And, I don't hear nothing but silence from the resident heel. That sounds good. Hell, I want to say thank you to the Hurt Business. That is great putting them back together. They should not have been split up a long time ago. That was just absolutely ridiculous. So it's good to see, superstars that are worth being in the ring and on the show, actually in the ring and on the show. As far as the lady booking on the Demon spot at the end of the pay-per-view, I'm just going to say it in the words, in the form of Bobby Lashley. That's bullshit. Later, y'all.
And you have to be in that moment where you're trying to get a call into a podcast, mailbag, and you're at work, and all of a sudden your boss comes in, so you got to speed it up and hurry it up. Well, hey, that's what I did, but I had one more little tidbit to say, and it actually has to do with The Miz, because somebody asked me the other day, they were like, hey, see that The Miz is on Dancing with the Stars? You checking it out? You're a wrestling fan. You watching it? I had a simple answer to that. No. Because, see, I'm not a fan and I'm not invested and I'm not watching Mike Mizano. I like The Miz. I'm not saying, I use that term loosely. I like him as a professional, as a performer, as a star wrestler, those kind of things. I like to jeer him. I like to cheer him, boo him, all that stuff. But when it comes to Mike Mizano, I don't watch Miz and Mrs. I don't want to see him getting his clippings done. I saw that was on a commercial. I don't need to see him dancing, because you know what? When The Miz actually does come back to the ring, I don't need those notions and those images in my head. That's something that the resident heel needs. I'm sure the resident heel has a big poster of Mike Mizano in his bathing suit right next to his Cardi B poster. I don't know. But that is the reason why I will not watch some superstars outside of wrestling world, because, hey, I'm not here to watch them as people. I'm not here to watch them as actors. I'm here to watch them as WWE wrestlers. All right, it's the crisis. I'm going to get out of the store and go back to work. But, hey, big shout to you. Big shout to everybody. Love the Patreon fans. I got to say it one more time. I love the Patreon fans. That was a lot of fun. Especially listening to, the giggles when Bobby Lashley likes to cuss. Because yes. It sounds like a 4-year-old saying poop for the first time. Hey, y'all have a good one. I'll check this podcast episode later tonight when it's probably around midnight. Peace.
Well, Mr. Crisis, thank you so much for the plug about Patreon and the benefit of it. One of them is not just $1 a month for everything ad free, but of course, you get that awesome Discord server where we jump on and during pay-per-views, we give our in-time real thoughts. And one of the comments this past time was hilarious, where we had Bobby Lashley use the S word, and it felt like the comment was that it sounded like a 3-year-old saying a cuss word for the first time. It was so true, like saying poop for the first time or whatever. That's exactly what it felt like with Bobby. It's just so unnatural for him cussing, because he's such a straight edge, just in your face, clean cut, badass guy, and him cussing doesn't make sense. It doesn't feel right. It doesn't compute with our brains. And so that was a great comment. One of many in the conversation. And anytime a pay-per-view happens, guys, the server's open. Really, the server's open anytime, but the biggest influx of people we get is during pay-per-views. So I'd really encourage you to check out Patreon and join Randy, join myself, join DJ Kuzmo, join The Crisis, join, a host of others that we got. And I'm not trying to miss anybody by name, but we've got dozens and dozens of people that are patrons, and I do encourage you to jump on. It's a lot of fun. Patreon.com, WWE Podcast. Check us out. All right. Thank you, Crisis. And Owen is a bit silent this week. I wonder, he had a mailbag earlier, or a mail email, that is, but I don't know where he's at. I wonder if he'll respond to you next week. We'll have to see. All right. Let's get to, I think this is our final voicemail. And I think it's Kyle from New York who called in while I was recording this. He's got hell of a timing to be able to just squeak on the show. So here we go. I believe this is Kyle from New York closing things out tonight.
Hey, Matt, it's Kyle from New York again. I'm calling you very late right now at 11:40 at night. I don't know if that matters for your time zone. I'm pretty sure we're the same time zone because I know you said you live in New York, upstate New York. I live in the suburbs in New York, like an hour away from the city, from New York City. I think they're pretty similar time zones. Anyway, right now it's like 11:40, so I might not make it in this mailbag. You might hear this next week. I'm calling very late. You might be like recording right now as I'm sending this. But I got two questions. One's about Drew McIntyre, one's about the draft. So I heard rumors about NXT being part of the draft this year, maybe. But even though they haven't announced anything. I've heard rumors that NXT might be part of the draft this year. My question to you is, do you think it's a good idea? I'm still thinking about it. I really don't know. The whole rebrand and all that, NXT 2.0, I don't know if it's a good idea. But, yeah, I thought a rumor went around that NXT could be part of the draft this year. We might have Raw, SmackDown, and NXT all part of the draft this year. So, yeah, I don't know. Anyway, the second thing I want to ask you is, the Drew McIntyre challenge Big E. I listened to your Raw review. I know you're fine with it. I'm fine with it too because everything you said about Big E so far is WWE champion. I feel the exact same way. I'm annoyed at New Day just as much as you are. So I love Drew McIntyre just like you. I agree with everything you said about Drew McIntyre also. Just started listening to the show like years ago. Like everything you said about Drew McIntyre since the babyface turn, I've agreed with. So me and you both are fine with Drew McIntyre challenging Big E. The question I want to ask you though is, do you think the fans will turn on him again whenever they have their match, maybe at Crown Jewel? I don't know when. Whenever they have their match, that's all I'm guessing. Crown Jewel. Whenever they have their title match, though, do you think the fans will turn on Drew McIntyre and boo him because he's back in the title picture only after like 2 months of exiting the title picture, like 2 months later? So I don't know. I'm fine with it. I'm scared he's gonna get turned on. They're gonna have to force turn him heel. Anyway, my 3 minutes is almost up. So thanks as always, and I'll talk to you next time.
Hey, Kyle. Yeah, you just squeezed in, and you just made it in. As I was recording, I heard the phone ringing, over my computer, and I was like, oh, here we go, and I saw the number pop up. I knew it was you. I had to get you in this week. I didn't want you to wait another week. So as I record this now, it is nearly midnight. So that's how much I love you guys, right? Like, I have to get up at 5:30 tomorrow morning, and here I am at midnight recording a nearly 2-hour mailbag. I mean, that's just straight love. All right. So, Kyle, NXT being involved in the draft. Now, this was brought up a little bit earlier in the show, and I mentioned that it's got to be sending a message that this brand is truly a third brand, not just the redheaded stepchild of WWE. But at the same time, you have the identity of NXT at stake here, because if you bring in Raw and SmackDown stars to NXT and it's truly a third brand, or at least they treat it that way, and people are being traded and people are being brought into NXT, and it's treated equally as Raw and SmackDown are, you're, I think, muddying the identity of NXT, and that is stars that are up and coming, that are not quite ready for the big stages of SmackDown and Raw. And it would, I think, completely, I don't want to say ruin, but it would alter the identity of the shows quite a bit. You'd have a lot of people on Raw and SmackDown that you'd have the casual fan saying, I don't mean Mr. Casual Wrestling fan, I mean the collective casual wrestling fan saying, who is this people? Who's this? There'd be a lot of education going on, which is fine for me, but I know a lot of fans want the instant star power. They don't want to have to learn new characters. That's just, I think, the nature of some fans. But on the flip side, the downside of going to NXT, while you'd have stars going in there, if you have stars going in there that were mainstays on Raw and SmackDown, then I think you've really just kind of shredded the identity of what NXT is. And I don't think WWE wants to do that, because it is its own little island. And I understand the importance of the sanctity of that island. You want to keep its identity and what it stands for and the feel of it. And to bring in main Raw and SmackDown stars, I think the fans would be pissed, because they would go, well, now it's just another Raw and SmackDown kind of combined now. So I would actually, the more I think about it, I'm going to go back on my on my initial thought and comments that, well, if they want to be a third brand, they need to send that message, and say, no, they shouldn't, because I think the downside is not worth the upside here. In other words, this would be a net loss. Even if you're treating it like a true third brand and you're sending that message, ultimately you would be kind of screwing with the image of NXT. It would piss off a lot of the fans, and it wouldn't have that unique identity that it has now. So how about that? I just contradicted myself in my own show. What was your other question? Oh, the fans turning on Drew. Yeah, I think that's a real possibility. But if it happens in Saudi Arabia, probably not. They have a different fan base there. If it happened in the States, it's likely. Because like you said, it's only been, 2 months, 3 months since Drew's been in the title picture. That's not long. It still feels a little bit too soon. And I think it's a one and done with Big E. And then they do a massive trade for Drew to SmackDown. And then he eventually works his way into fighting Roman Reigns, which won't happen, hopefully, until WrestleMania if The Rock's not able to go. I think they're looking at Drew as a contingency plan if The Rock's not able to go for WrestleMania. So I think Drew still does end up on SmackDown. It's just not going to be during the draft. So, all right. Thank you, Kyle. And you just squeezed in. You're welcome. So everybody, though, not just Kyle, all of our callers, all of our emailers, it is much appreciated. This is our longest show that we do usually during the week, but it is our favorite show because it's nice to not just talk to you. It's nice to hear from you. So everybody, if you want to join us, realwwepodcast@gmail.com is the email. You, the listener, if you're interested, can also be a part of the show. Don't just sit on the sidelines. And you can also call us at 518-952-0247. That's the email and the phone number. So everybody, thank you so much for your calls, your emails. And I'll be back this Sunday with our latest news brief team member, Sam, who is going to be joining me for the weekend review. Really excited. A new co-host to be joining me and a new voice, right? Why do you need to hear mine all the time? It gets kind of boring, although that's good for some of you who use my voice to fall asleep. So I'll take that as a compliment. Thanks, everybody, for listening. As always, I'll talk to you next time.